Don't you wish there was a place to get all of the information on speech therapy for toddlers in one quick search? I'm talking about everything from the crucial prelinguistic skills to nailing down language development, assessing toddlers, setting goals, and implementing techniques that will boost communication on your caseload. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a go-to resource where you could flip through, find exactly what you need, and walk away with actionable tips that you could also share with parents? Your wish just came true because I've been secretly working on a roadmap and guide for SLPs like you that are working with babies and toddlers. This handbook is a complete game changer. It's going to change your therapy sessions and your life. Sounds dramatic, I know, but I'm being for real. So get ready to supercharge your therapy sessions and revolutionize your approach to toddler communication. Trust me, my friend, you don't want to miss out on this. Okay, friends, if there's one thing that I know for sure, it's that working with toddlers can be a real challenge. And it can be so hard to find resources tailored specifically for toddler speech therapy. The truth is, when I first started working with toddlers, I experienced those same frustrations. Y'all, I even questioned myself as an SLP. I was so discouraged. The toddlers on my caseload did not want to do the activities that I presented. They would run away during sessions. They threw my toys. They would try to eat my books instead of read them. And to top it off, parents started asking questions, like the big one. Why aren't we seeing progress? Not to mention, every time I searched for toddler speech activities, I could never seem to find what I was looking for. Resources were either for the preschool population or geared towards parents and caregivers. I refused to give up though, because I knew that if I was struggling, others probably were too. And I was right. So here's what I decided to do. I wanted to make resources for us, the SLPs, the SLPAs, the grad students. We are often on the front lines of intervention, even though we don't learn much about this population while we're in school, like grad school or undergrad. And listen, just in case you're wondering who on earth I am to tell you about toddler speech therapy, just allow me to introduce myself. Hey friend, my name is Megan Pivoto and I am a speech language pathologist. I'm a Christian, a wife, and a mama. I love encouraging others and reminding them to believe in themselves. I'm a huge Chick-fil-A fanatic. In fact, we eat it just about every Wednesday. I love the colors pink and turquoise. I'm a huge fan of 90s country music and I'm always up for a challenge of name that 90s country song. My go-to drink of choice is always a sweet tea. I'm from a very small town in Texas and actually live in the same area that I grew up in. My husband and I are from the same area, but we went to different schools. However, our love story is actually pretty cool. And most importantly, I love working with SLPs, and honestly, anyone else for that matter, who also work with toddlers. I love providing them information and resources they need to help encourage communication and language development. I've been in the world of speech therapy for over a decade. I started working as an SLPA, then I went to grad school. Right out of grad school, I spent a few years in the school setting and eventually landed in the home health world where I started working with toddlers. I've been working with the toddler population for several years now. And honestly, it didn't take me long after I started to realize there was a serious gap in the resources. Fast forward a few years and a ton of hours scouring the internet and books for research and any information I could find. And I'm excited to say I have created a resource that is going to close that gap. And friend, there is nothing more that I would love than to help you simplify your sessions, understand toddler development, and discover multiple ways to use the books and toys you already have in your sessions with your toddlers. So let me ask you something, my friend. How are you feeling today? Are you on top of your paperwork and your progress notes? Or are you feeling a little bit overwhelmed because you're not seeing the progress that you expect? Maybe you have toddlers running away from your activities, or you don't know where to begin after a recent toddler was put on your caseload. Or a toddler speech evaluation. You have no idea where to start. And you have no idea how to answer those tough parent questions. Now, if you said yes or yep to any of these, I feel you. Honestly, it wasn't that long ago that I was overwhelmed by the caseload of toddlers that I had. I had no idea what to do with them, but a big desire to figure something out because I needed to be able to answer those parent questions and stop second-guessing myself as a speech pathologist. So how did I get over that overwhelm and start finding joy in my job again? Well, it all started with something that often feels impossible and unreasonable. I admitted to myself that I didn't know what I was doing, and I started looking for help. I'll be the first to say it's terrifying to admit when you don't know something and have to ask for help, especially whenever you're supposed to be the professional in the situation. No one wants to admit when they don't know something. I mean, the good news is that we do have Google these days, but it can be really hard to weed through all of that information after you put in a search. So trust me when I say this. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable and admit that you don't know something, you'll quickly realize that you're actually not alone in that feeling. And there are a lot of people that are willing to help, including me. You just have to be brave enough to ask. Now, the first place that I actually found help was Ash's website. Ash's developmental milestones reminded me of what typical development was supposed to look like versus what I was expecting out of the toddlers that I was seeing, which is a huge difference. It's a very important thing. Now, while finding out these milestones did bring me a little bit of sanity, it wasn't enough for me to actually see a difference in my sessions. I needed more. So I continued to scour the internet for activities. I looked for more information on development and honestly anything that I thought would be remotely helpful to my caseload. I started writing all of it down into a notebook that I carried with me in my car. Anytime I felt like I wasn't making progress, I could just go back and check if what I was expecting developmentally was appropriate or if I needed to do something else before we would actually see progress. It was all the information that I needed on toddler development in one place. Until one day that notebook fell out of my car and it landed in a rain puddle. Yes, all of those handwritten notes turned into a giant blob of multicolored ink and y'all, I was devastated. I had written all of it pen to paper. So I took a few days to sulk about the loss of my hard work and decided that this was not going to happen again. I needed something that I could quickly reference, and for the sake of paper and water puddles, it should probably have the option to be digital. Thus, the idea of what would become Communicate and Connect, a roadmap for SLPs working with babies and toddlers, was born. I sat down once again and I jotted down every aspect of language development and communication in toddlers that I would need to be able to reference. Only this time, I saved them to a Word document. Now that was also the moment that I began to realize that others probably needed this too. It's been about 3 years since the rain puddle incident, and since then, I'm happy to report that Communicate and Connect has slowly been coming together, and now it's finally here. So what's the best way to describe this incredible book? Well, the way I see it, it's everything you never learned in grad school about toddler development, because that's exactly why I put it together. I mean topics like prelinguistic skills. What is communication? Who are late talkers? Language development in toddlers, speech sound development, imitation development, attention development, play development, evaluating choosing goals for toddlers, how to make anything therapy, and strategies for intervention and encouraging language and communication into daily routines. As you can imagine, my friends, this is going to be a game changer. So let's take a look inside, shall we? Every chapter includes handouts and information about the topic. For example, on the screen, you can see handouts from the first 2 chapters, the prelinguistic skills and what is communication. By the way, this is not all of the handouts that are included. For the prelinguistic skills, there are actually individual handouts for all 11 prelanguage skills, as well as an overview of each. So depending on the needs of your caseload, you could present a parent with the specific information they need for their child, or if you're doing an evaluation, you can show them the entire skill set on one handout to help them better understand the questions that you're asking during the evaluation. Now, each chapter also includes different activities and resources that can be used to encourage the skills. For the sake of simplicity, every chapter is laid out in the same format. What is it? Why is it important? And how can I encourage it? There are also checklists that can be completed with parents and caregivers to help you determine areas of strengths and weaknesses. And again, activities and suggestions for fun ways to increase engagement while also encouraging the skill development. Now, I know I said this before, but as you can imagine, this handbook is going to transform your speech therapy with your toddlers on the caseload. But guess what? You don't have to take my word for it. Here's what other SLPs have to say about it. This is amazing, truly so helpful, incredibly helpful for newbies, and a great refresher for those who have been in the field for a long time. The layout is great and consistent with every subject, which I love. The useful tips on how to use toys and implement therapy is what's always missing when therapists are looking for materials, and this is super helpful. I really think that this is a good refresher for therapists, both old and new, but more importantly, this is a great resource for parents. I can't tell you how many times I've completed an initial evaluation for a family and explained that their child is delayed compared to the peers, and the parents get this look on their face like, well, how do I fix it? This provides a fantastic tool for parents who maybe hasn't heard any of these words before. This answers common questions about wording therapists loosely throw around and also offers advice on how parents can help from home. Easy to read and informative. Friend, I want to help you remember why you decided to become an SLP working with toddlers in the first place. Do you remember that feeling? If you've been wishing for one resource that held everything you needed for speech therapy for toddlers, this is it. Visit the slpnextdoor.com/handbook for more information.